You've got mail.
Do you remember the 90s?
Come on, Uncle Phil, this is the 90s, man.
Man, it's the 90s. It's hammer time. Come on.
It's the 90s, remember? Microchips, microwaves, faxes, airphones.
Ma, it's the 90s. You can call it what it is.
Yada, yada, yada.
I can be anything I want to be. It's the 90s.
What, are you nuts? This is the 90s. We're gonna sue you.
Wake up and smell the 90s.
You know, hardly any of this stuff can really help me with my schoolwork.
There is something you could have which would help you a lot. Do you know what that is?
No, but I'm afraid you're going to tell me.
Yes. It's the new Encyclopedia Britannica.
Encyclopedia Britannica. Now you tell me. I've got a report due tomorrow.
On what?
On the exploration of space.
Take a look at this. From the first beeps of Sputnik to the triumph of the Apollo moon landing.
All right. Well, since this has turned out to be a Britannica commercial, I guess you're going to tell me how somebody could get a set.
Actually, I thought I might, yeah.
And I suppose you're going to throw one of those 800 numbers up on the screen. Am I right?
Might as well.
So what do you think we're talking about today?
The death knell of printed media, hence the encyclopedia.
Pretty close, yeah. We are going to talk about the exciting subject of reference books.
Reference books on Dave
and Cheryl
in the 90s. That's right. So this clip that you gave us is the clue that brought me here. I didn't get it this time, but reference books.
You kind of did.
Reference books.
I mean, it is the death knell of printed media. And it's now in our pocket. Everything that we are about to talk about today sits in our pocket every single day.
Oh man, I'm feeling this. I'm not going to jump the gun. Mm-hmm. I think I know where this might be going.
Yep.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Take me there.
All right. Well, so we're going to start with encyclopedia because they are the thing that used to take up the most room. They are books of every subject organized alphabetically. And if you were interested in a certain topic, you would just go and look.
They're not just books, they're volumes.
Volumes, yes. They often by letter of the alphabet. And sometimes they were certain categories, like a children's encyclopedia or a law encyclopedia or a medical encyclopedia. Or there was the generic ones. Did you have encyclopedias at your house?
I had the Britannica encyclopedia.
Because you were fancy, I guess.
Also, it was before I was born. I remember that the encyclopedia was bought when my brother was born because they were much more ambitious with my brother 9 years before I was born. So I got the 1975 encyclopedia. Uh-huh. And so in the 80s, it really helped a lot.
Yeah.
Like Nixon was still in power.
Sweet. We were a Funk and Wagnall family.
Oh, is that Canadian?
I don't think so.
I mean,
it's just a different encyclopedia.
Okay.
Different people made it. And then the other most common is World Book Encyclopedia.
The World Book, yes.
Now, were you in America? Because this wasn't a Canadian thing, but I heard stories of like going to the grocery store every week and picking up a new edition to add
that's
to
why
your
I said
library.
it was volumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there used to be you'd get stamps, and
Okay.
you could get you would earn stamps as points to essentially then put on like bingo cards that you would lick. And when you filled out these cards, if you got enough of them, you could purchase all types of items. And one of them was always that they had encyclopedias. Mm-hmm. And the deal is that obviously you have to get. Most of the time, they didn't just have an A. They had like A, B, or C, D. So you only maybe had to get 15 of them instead of 24 or 27.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. Or they would have, like you said, if they weren't for A and Z, they would have ones for world history or, I don't know, auto mechanics.
So let me tell you a little bit about specifically the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is the most famous because it started in 1768, which is crazy, although the company has changed ownership 7 times. The 2010 version of the 15th edition spans 32 volumes and 32,640 pages, and that was the last printed edition. Since 2016, it's been published exclusively as an online encyclopedia.
When I started getting some of my first PCs in like 92, 94, that's when you got my first CD-ROM.
Yes, Encarta. Do you remember that?
Yes, Encarta, exactly. That and Cinemania was ours as well.
Yes.
So, but the encyclopedia was like basically the Internet Movie Database before this. But that's what I remember is that all the libraries, that's when officially all of the encyclopedia volumes just started gathering dust because everyone could, on this CD-ROM, have everything. And also it had postage stamp sized super
videos.
Low resolution little QuickTime videos with some like just ear bleeding sound coming out of it. But that was mind boggling.
Yeah. And of course that led to Wikipedia in 2001.
Wikipedia is not associated with
No,
Britannica,
Wikipedia is not associated with Britannica, but it is.
It's the public domain
It's the
version
public
of it.
domain. And what's fascinating about it, which is completely opposite of what we grew up with, is it's constantly updating.
All right. So
like by the minute.
The commercial that you played at the top as the clue, that was extremely nostalgic.
Oh, yeah?
Like, did you have that in Canada?
That specific commercial? I don't remember it, no.
That was that in the You Gotta Get Adele guy. Did you have that one?
Maybe. So I'm going to play another clip.
Well, hey, look, Maxie, we're using the same map me and my dad used. We'll take the same route and make the same stops and see the same sights.
But that trip would take weeks, Dad.
Exactly. Getting there's half the fun.
This is the introduction to maps and atlases, things that have been completely replaced by our smartphones. Can you explain what an atlas is?
An atlas is...
Because our kid didn't know. I asked her a few minutes ago, and I was like, hey, what's an atlas? She's like, a book? I was like, good start. She didn't know what was in it, though.
I mean, it's a book of maps.
Well, it's world maps.
World maps.
So it covered everything. So you could look up Australia or Africa or Europe and like learn the capitals. And now, it's not to street level. This was maybe listing main cities, provinces,
That's our
states.
triptych episode.
Well, triptychs are part of this. Can you describe what a triptych is?
Yeah.
Because my parents definitely use these.
That was specific to AAA and CAA in your country.
In my country.
And whenever you would go on a trip, part of the service of having, I don't know what AAA actually stands for, but
American Automobile Association.
Thank you. And so
Also Canadian Automobile Association.
Yeah, back when you had personal service one-on-one, they actually had, you could just go in, make an appointment, and you could tell them where you were going on your trip, and they would take out a map and they would physically give you guides to all the cities you were going in, highlight the routes that would be best for you, and recommend hotels, restaurants, and attractions.
Yeah, and it looked like a little like coil notebook. So you would just turn the page. Once you got to like the next step, you would just go to the next page.
This year, don't go on vacation unless you go with a AAA triptych. It makes getting there as nice as being there.
And the thing that we're also losing is anybody's ability to follow a map. Like, what if just the internet went down? How would our kids get places? They don't know how to look for a street name and follow northeast, southwest. Here is another one.
What would you do if someone took away your yellow pages?
My yellow pages?
The CNP telephone yellow pages?
You and what army? No.
People want to hold on to the book with more choices.
Hey, no. My yellow pages don't even think about it.
It's the book 9 out of 10 use, and when asked to choose, most people won't let go.
So telephone books.
I love telephone books.
Why?
Every single time you go into a hotel, the first thing I would do is find the telephone book and try to find people with my name. You can also find celebrities.
Tell me a story about that.
One of the founding artistic fathers of Marvel Comics ended up retiring in Fort Myers at a Spider-Man appearance at the Edison Mall in Fort Myers, Florida. And some poor sap was in a ill-fitting leotard. He did a little demonstration of how to draw Spider-Man, gave out some comics, and he said that he lived here. And so I looked in the phone book and found John Romita Sr. and he was a snowbird here. And his wife said, "Why don't you stop by for lunch?" his wife thought got a kick out of it, even though it annoyed him. So she set up a little desk and she allowed me to like draw while he was like still doing layouts and stuff, like commissions.
Mm-hmm.
And I hung out for probably about 2 or 3 weeks, not really understanding the immensity of the man that I was hanging
Mm-hmm.
with. And he would like critique my drawings rather scathingly.
Sweet.
It was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I still have the signed comic book. He gave me like a couple of them. If God knows, I could have probably gotten some pretty good artwork from him if I was like understood.
If you thought about it, yeah.
But yeah, the idea of you could be unlisted in the phone book, but also the thing that was really awesome was you could go in and it was always divided in that they had the white pages, which were the residential, and the yellow pages, which were business.
Yeah, and businesses would use the yellow pages like that commercial showed us for advertising. So
let your fingers do the walking.
That's right. But companies would buy ads in the yellow pages so that they would appear bigger in the book. And the book was divided by categories and then subdivided by the name of the company. So you could look up plumber, and then you'd see AAA plumbing, and then you'd see Abacus plumbing, and then you'd see accidental plumbing or whatever, you know?
Do you still reference the yellow pages when you talk to people about things, just in an antiquated fashion?
No, I don't.
I do.
Oh,
almost.
do you?
I tell everybody. I was even talking.
yellow
I was talking.
pages?
Well, no, I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I said, you know what? If you want to apprentice somewhere, just get on whatever version of the yellow pages is now, and find out who is in that industry.
I mean, I think that there are online versions of the well, maybe not the white pages, but the yellow pages.
The yellow pages is still probably a thing, I'd imagine.
But I think that a lot of the use of the yellow pages is advertising, which has sort of been taken over by social media. So like Facebook and Instagram ads and probably TikTok and stuff. There's a clip, a funny joke on the Golden Girls where they were looking for the phone book and they couldn't find it. And then in comes Sophia carrying it. And they're like, oh, what happened to my car?
Ma, why are you carrying that phone book?
I can carry a book. It's a free country. Even the Statue of Liberty carries a book.
You were driving again.
Who says?
This phone book is still warm. You were sitting on it so you could see over the steering wheel.
You know me, safety first.
I sat on phone books.
Yeah.
That was a thing. I mean, it was a thing for a reason. They would sit them,
They were
booster
solid.
chairs. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could stick 1 or 2 of them under there. But yeah, that was in every movie and television show is a thing that if some kid stole a car, he was sitting on a phone book.
Sitting on a telephone book. Although the paper was super, super thin, almost like Bible paper, but not quite as thin. It wasn't like book paper. So you were talking about Cinemania. There were also other movie guides. The most famous is probably
Leonard Maltin, I believe he got up to, before it went digital, probably 30-something.
So they were just books. I don't know. I can't remember if it was organized by year or by title, but in the index, you could look up directors and actors, and then you could cross-reference them. And this is how, when you like got into an actor, you were like, ooh, let me find out what else they did. And then you could find it. And now we just have, we had Cinemania, which was the CD-ROM.
Yeah, we'll walk through it. So it was Microsoft specifically packaged with all of their PCs, I believe, in the early 90s.
Oh, I don't know. I think I got my Cinemania separate because I loved it.
Oh, okay. But normally you'd get a package deal if you bought your PCs, and it would come with educational software. And that would be your Encyclopedia Britannicas. Or Encarta. Encarta, because it was always the Microsoft branded. Some chess or some type of game,
right?
And
chess.
Then it would have
Cinemania.
It would have Cinemania in it, and Cinemania. I went and I printed it out. I had probably about 300 pages. I had to actually pay my parents back on ink because I wanted to print it out because it was the way that I cross-referenced everything. I wanted to have a physical Bible.
The curtain's going up on Cinemania 97. We open on the new content screen that changes every time you enter, with trivia questions, featured artists, movie reviews, and easy navigation. Cinemania 97 brings you all the thrills, chills, and spills that make movies one of our favorite national pastimes. Cinemania 97, now playing on PCs everywhere.
I used Cinemania so much when I edited my final high school year's yearbook. And it was movie themed because I got to choose and nobody disagreed with me. And now we have Internet Movie Database.
Letterboxd. And yeah, there's all types of catalogs of movies now. But the thing that was great about Cinemania is that it had reviews as well. You could go back and you could read like Pauline Kael's review or Roger Ebert's review.
Yeah, I think there were specific film critics. Do we need to describe what film critics are? Because I don't think we have those anymore.
Everyone's a film critic.
Yes.
They know what they are.
Yeah.
Look in a mirror.
Then we have books like the Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh, I was wondering if we'd get to that one.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the history of the Guinness Book of World Records?
So let's see. The first edition topped the bestseller list in the United Kingdom, Christmas of 1955. The following year, the book was launched internationally, and as of the 2025 edition, it is now in its 70th year of publication, published in 100 countries and 40 languages, and maintains over 53,000 records in its database. And those books are still being printed, which is not the case with a lot of these books. I went to high school with now a man who is in there several times for like memory tricks.
From high school?
From high school, yeah. I'll show you later.
Well,
maybe we can tag him to this. And there was also a TV show. Do you remember that?
You know the book, the world's authority on the astounding,
the fastest street luge, human cannonball,
the bizarre,
the largest tumor, the biggest feet,
and the unforgettable,
the highest tightrope, the exposed heart.
Amazing people, incredible stories in an all-new Fox series, Guinness World Records, premieres Tuesday, July 28th at 9/8 Central.
There were similar books like Ripley's Believe It or Not. I love those. I had a little pocket-sized book of Ripley's Believe It or Not, and it was just weird. I think that was like the seed that built my interest in like oddities.
There's always those fat twins wearing the cowboy hats on the motorcycles. Yeah. World's tallest man marries world's smallest woman.
Right.
You know, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think that's why those books survive. And I know that we've bought a handful of them over the years. We probably had like 2 or 3. Then of course there's dictionaries, thesauruses, rhyming dictionaries. We still use them in physical form to some degree.
Certainly we use the Scrabble dictionary because we're terrible at it and we must have some reference.
Yeah, house rules. So, and do you remember like in the library, a lot of these reference books had to stay in the library. You couldn't take out most of these reference books. Like you couldn't take out encyclopedia at the library. They were there for public use and research.
Oh yeah, and I remember some of them like the atlases and stuff. Those things were the size of a table sometimes.
They could be huge, yeah, for sure. Do you remember microfiche?
Oh, I love microfiche. And to this day, I would still collect it if I could find it.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe what microfiche is for our young viewers?
Yeah, it's
listeners.
It's basically just celluloid film stock, almost like a film strip, or I don't know what the gauge of it was. Maybe it was like Super 8 film gauge, but they would take newsprint and newspaper and photograph it, and then print it onto this celluloid and
shrink it down.
And we'll shrink
like
it down. They would shrink it down, but then you could go through and you would just have a cartridge that would essentially have months, if not a year, of volumes and references of a specific newspaper, a specific journal. And then because it was grayscale, you could look at it on a machine, which was like a reel-to-reel that would drag it across. It would magnify it up on a screen. And then if you wanted to print the page, it would Xerox it.
I remember once in high school, a friend of mine and we were just at the library for some reason, and we were like, oh, let's just look up our birth year and look up birth announcements. And we happened to find the birth announcement of one of our friends. Two of our friends.
We think we have everything electronically cataloged and that we have everything at our fingertips. And anyone who likes movies knows that's not true. And a lot of people who are really into reference material, especially newspapers, not even more than half of that material is even actually digitized. And most of it truly only exists now because the ephemeralness of it has already dissipated. It's only on microfiche. Also, microfiche, a distinct plot point in most spy movies at the time in the pre-digital era, because it was always the secret plans were on microfiche. They're looking for the microfiche.
Do you know what Grey's Anatomy is? Not the show.
I'd imagine it has something to do with medical reference.
Yeah.
In the recording and study, not unlike law, like precedents of law, it's probably precedents of medical procedure or...
It's much more visual than that.
Okay.
It's not really as written out. It's much more descriptions of body parts, like a foot dissected, so you could learn the bones and the muscles. And
I just remember the one that I really loved was the pocket prescription guide that had every single pill.
Yeah. That's right. I didn't even include that one.
And
but
all,
yeah, that's
and all
related.
of the pictures and names, because I remember whenever we would somebody would come up with a drug, we would always look up the name.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely had a couple of... My parents were way into that. So we had some reference books of medical conditions and like treatments for it. And
We had one that literally had a picture of every pill.
drugs, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it didn't just reference the name and say the side effects and what it was,
But
what
it showed you a
company made
picture.
it. It showed you a picture,
Yeah.
color picture of the pill.
Because the pills were always looked different because there was always a description of the pill so that they wouldn't give you the wrong pill.
I would like to think that this wasn't just for our fun, that this was a reference for professionals to keep us from ingesting wayward medications.
Yep. Were you this way? I used to love quotations.
No, I was a rhyming dictionary guy.
A rhyming dictionary guy. I liked quotations.
Like
Like I
limericks.
thought I was very deep and that if I could just live my life through the wisdom of the elders, I'd be all set. One of the big ones was Bartlett's Familiar Quotations. It is the longest lived and most widely distributed collection of quotations. The book was first issued in 1855 and is currently in its 19th edition, which was published in 2022. I would imagine that would probably be a reference book that you would keep physical too. It would be like, I would like to look at reference or quotations about love or about war or about children or it was divided up by categories and you could just...
Did you always make sure to cite these references when you did it? You never took credit for any of them?
No, I don't think I did. I don't know that I said them. In life, I just liked learning from them or something. There's the Farmer's Almanac.
The Farmer's Almanac. Yeah.
And that's about basically statistics.
It's
and
statistics of yield.
Yeah, based on variables and stuff.
And that way they can use it to predict future markets and growth.
Yeah.
Hog futures, I believe they call it. Corn futures.
Yes.
But
there were other categories too. So there's sports almanacs. And I think I had a really thick one that was a general one. And I just read the hell out of it just because it was interesting. It was not narrative at all. It was completely just information about things. And there's Emily Post Etiquette. So reference books about etiquette, what you should be doing in certain circumstances, depending on who you're dining with, what you're eating, forks, plates, glasses, where your hands should be, where your elbows should be.
And this isn't just like a daily news article like Dear Abby or something. This is a series of books
and rules. It's not a series of books.
Of course,
this is probably one of the ones where it doesn't change very much because etiquette is etiquette for the most part. Obviously, we've gotten more casual as a society, but for a long time, it was sort of a sign of class. If you knew the rules and you did them correctly, you were thought to be well brought up.
Fork is on the left.
I believe
Spoon
so.
is
But
on
there's
the right.
also several different forks, and you've got to know which fork is for clams.
Combing your hair.
Which fork is for the clams, which is for the salad, which is, for the main entree, which is for dessert. Now, the one thing about not having these reference materials basically in your phone, in your pocket at all times is arguments. You could argue about whether something was true or not. And there was really no way of definitively finding out where it was unless you referenced a book later, maybe.
So you had to take the argument to the library.
You had to take the argument to the library or just
or the Barnes & Noble or something. Yeah.
Or just be better at arguing and convincing, gaslighting your friends.
Well, you also had to retain the knowledge. Part of the issue now is that, everybody is, why do I need to remember how to spell something? Why do I have to remember something? I can find it immediately.
Exactly.
Is there anything you miss specifically about reference books, like a specific aspect of it?
I don't know, but I love them.
Did you like sniffing them or something?
Well, books in
For the
general,
smell?
yes.
Yeah.
But no, I love them. I had almanacs. I had Guinness. I certainly had I had several editions of the movie reference books. And then at a certain point, they just we just got rid of them. We were like, oh, we're moving. We don't need an almanac from 1993.
Well, it was nice to have something. I remember I had a couple that I treasured that were reference books of different either TV series or movies. And even one, I remember we had a specific one that had like the body as references for drawing like anatomical stuff, but it had the acetate pages that allowed you to start with they were clear, and on one of them it was printed the skin and you just naked, and then you pull it back and there's the musculature, and then you come in and there's the nervous system.
Yeah.
And then,
I remember that being a part of encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Like there'd be like 5 pages in the center that were special pages, and it was often the body parts. And like the skin, and then the muscle, and then the bones, and
I think just the idea of it being something that is tactile, because everything's so deliberate with the internet that you have to direct it to find something, whereas you can discover something if you're looking in an encyclopedia, because on your way there, you're also opening up the page and there's other stuff on the page and things that you're going to bump into. So it's kind of like back when you had cable and you would just bump into something.
yeah. It was also a we lived in a fact-based society because there were gatekeepers to publishing. And so there were people that made decisions that cared very deeply about the information in these books being accurate. So they were reference materials, and you didn't have to figure out if it's a good website or a bad website or a reputable one or a political one. It's just a book that's telling you facts that have been confirmed.
So I'm going to give a recommendation at the end of this.
Okay.
Our 90s podcast, I'm going to reference I believe, early 50s Frank Capra film called Ball of Fire, which is with Barbara Stanwyck and Gary Cooper. And the entire precedent of the film is that Gary Cooper is the young scholar of a group of 7 scholars who were meant to be like the 7 dwarves, and they were all old men, and all of them had these beards, and all of them had a different, they were all
specialty, right?
They had a specialty, and they were all collectively working on writing that year's encyclopedia. And Barbara Stanwyck comes in and she's trying to seduce him and gets I don't know what type of mob people are involved, and screwball shenanigans happen. But yeah, it's the only film I can think of that the entire thing is about these people who their sole profession is creating the encyclopedia.
Yeah. No, I love reference books, always have. So that's reference books. Thank you for joining us
On Dave
and Cheryl
in the 90s.
Read a book.
Please, at least carry them.
Carry
Your
a
children
book.
will be stronger if you just load them down with books.
I can read anything. I can read everything. I can
Got a favorite 90s moment or topic you want us to dive into? We'd love to hear about it. If you think we got everything wrong, we'd love to hear about that too. Drop us an email at andthe90spod@gmail.com, link in the episode description, and you can be damn sure that we'll read your comments on the show. Also, if you're digging the show, please rate, comment, subscribe, and tell everyone you know to check us out. It really does make a difference. Till next time, remember, we're nostalgia for the olds and education for the youths.